Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Sustainability and Resiliency Committee meeting. We haven't met for a while, so we're going to start reinventing our path forward. And on that note, I'm John Strand, Chair. We'll run around the table and do introductions and go from there.
Good afternoon. I'm Brenda Derrick. I'm the Assistant City Administrator.
Sean Paschke, XL Energy.
Chad Brussel, Casconia Electric.
Bruce Grubb, part-time city administration. And can I just add, for Diana's benefit, Casey Steele indicated she wouldn't be able to make it today. But based on the nameplate, you might have to figure out who else is missing. But online, we've got Jen Sweatman, Ben Dow, and Dave Beats.
Greta Graymig, Public Representative.
Shauna Radnick, Inspections Director.
Becky Majerus, Director of Facilities Management.
Julie Bommelman, Transit Director.
Megan Elshaug, Planning Coordinator for the Planning Department.
Zoe Apsey, Public Representative.
So Bruce, who do we have online? We have Jen Sweatman, Ben Dow, and
Dave Beats, Fargo Parks, and Jen Sweatman.
Dave Beats. Can you all hear us okay online?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Thanks for joining us virtually. And don't hesitate getting our attention. We're really loose here as far as format. So if you need to chime in, just interrupt, and we'll get you included in the conversation, okay? All right. So going forward, do we have a motion to approve the last agenda?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Agenda is approved. And same with minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the August 13th minutes?
Excuse me, I've got one edit for the minutes. Just my title is Planning Coordinator as opposed to Planning Director.
So you've been promoted.
Just on paper temporarily.
So we have a new planning director. You were the first to know it. Just don't tell Nicole.
Yeah.
All right, we have one correction. Any other changes or additions to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great. Bruce, I'll turn it over to you now with topics that we have.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is kind of a follow-up to a previous presentation that you might recall back in August of 2023. We were given an introductory presentation on North Dakota Clean Cities. And North Dakota Clean Cities is managed by the American Lung Association. I think, and Heather can correct me if I'm wrong, that they were recognized by the U.S. Department of Energy in August of 1998. So been around for a while, and their work is focused on reducing the impacts of fuel and vehicle emissions on community's health. So Heather Betts with the American Lung Association was here with us before. She was good enough to join us again. She reached out to, I think, Commissioner Stratton and myself and said, hey, if I could have another opportunity, I've got a bunch of updates I'd like to share. And so Heather is here today. Thank you, Heather. This podium over here, Brian's got you loaded up. I hope you can see your PowerPoint icon there. And when you're ready to go, we'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
And thanks for being here, Heather.
There it is.
I'm like, why does this look different than mine? Should I be able to share here and presenter? Sorry, everybody. Okay. So I am Heather Betts. I am a manager with the American Lung Association and also director of the North Dakota Clean Cities and Communities. We recently had a name change. Thanks for having me here. So I just will go over a brief introduction of what Clean Cities and Communities is, our redesignation with the Department of Energy, current projects, and then upcoming projects. So, Clean Cities and Communities is a U.S. Department of Energy DOE partnership to advance clean transportation nationwide. We have more than 75 DOE designated clean cities and communities coalitions, and we work locally in urban, suburban, rural, and tribal communities to strengthen the nation's environment, energy, security, and economic prosperity. So like I said, we recently just went over our redesignation process, and excited to share that North Dakota Clean Cities has been redesignated as a Clean Cities and Communities Coalition. And it's pretty significant. It underscores our achievement and our continued commitment to sustainability and clean energy initiatives. Skip that slide here. So current projects and activities, we have a couple different projects that we've been working on in the state. We have our Empower project, Electric Nation, our electric school bus initiative, and a low income access to charging in electric vehicles. It's called LACE program. And I'll go over all of these in the next few slides here. So the Empower project was funded by the Department of Energy and is focused on promoting the adoption of workplace charging stations nationwide. We're achieving this by providing essential resources such as education, technical assistance, and tailored solutions to workplaces across the country, but also here in North Dakota. And so we've partnered with a lot of local organizations. A couple are the North Dakota Gateway to Science, which is in Grand Forks. They've installed charging there. We've also partnered with Vance Thompson Vision Center here in Fargo. They've installed workplace charging there as well. RS Collision Center in Lemure, North Dakota, as well as Bueller Automotive and CL Asset Management in Watford City. So all of these organizations have made a pledge to Empower to provide charging for their employees in the workplace. Another really big project that we've been working on is the project called Electric Nation. And this is a project that we have been working with 3 different areas, so Minnesota, South Dakota, and North Dakota. We've been working really closely here with Standing Rock to build charging out within the Standing Rock community, as well as to actually provide them vehicles for transport on the reservation there. So this has been a really huge project. We've worked really hard in educating the community members. We also had a lot of opportunity to educate dealership staff and first responders on this project and how electric vehicles work and safety precautions related to electric vehicles. Like I said, this grant here has actually deployed light-duty EVs to Standing Rock and to Red Lake Nation in Minnesota. A newer project that we've been working on is called the Electric School Bus Initiative here. And this is also funded by the Department of Energy. And through this initiative, we're working with the World Resource Institute to provide equitable adoption training for electric school buses. These trainings will empower school districts in our region, particularly here in North Dakota, to make informed decisions about transitioning to electric school buses. And so we know that there have been a couple different districts that have been awarded EPA funding. So we plan to reach out to some of those districts to, hold some listening sessions to really pave the way forward for other districts to do the same thing. And so that's what this funding will do. And the other current project is this low-income access to charging and EVs. It's called LACE, again funded by the DOE, and it focuses on developing innovative financing models to make electric vehicles more accessible and affordable to low-income buyers. And so what we'll do here is we'll be creating an advisory group to kind of help pave the way and give suggestions and ideas of how to make electric vehicles more affordable for this population. Some upcoming projects are the Northern Mountain West Collaborative Expansion Project and then the National ZEV Critical Emergency First Responder Training. And then additionally, which has not been listed on this slide, is we're also excited to share that we have applied for a community engagement liaison position through the U.S. Department of Energy, Clean Cities and Communities Environmental Justice Program. And so this community engagement liaison will be instrumental in advancing equitable access to clean transportation and energy solutions in our state by providing strong relationships with underserved communities, understanding their transportation needs and challenges, and ensuring that the benefits of clean transportation are accessible to everyone in our communities. So this Northern Mountain West Collaborative Expansion Project is a pretty cool project. It hasn't started yet, but we're planning to have, or hoping to have, our contract in place by January here. And this is designed to accelerate the adoption of alternative fuel infrastructure in Idaho, Montana, and North Dakota, as well as Wyoming. And so this partnership will bring together our coalition, Yellowstone, Teton Clean Cities, and Treasure Valley Clean Cities to promote cleaner transportation solutions with a primary focus on medium and heavy duty fleets using electric, hydrogen, and renewable fuels, including diesel produced in our region. And so North Dakota Clean Cities will leverage grant funding to enhance our outreach and provide technical assistance to organizations transitioning to alternative fuels and collaborate with local, state, and federal stakeholders to maximize the impact. And so this actually will really focus on renewable diesel and biodiesel in our region. So I'm pretty excited about this. We don't only focus on electric, which is what it kind of seems like because we've been getting a lot of funding for electric vehicles, but this specifically here will focus on other alternative fuels. So I'm really excited to be working on this. So stay tuned for updates here. And this is also another really exciting project. So this is the National ZEV Critical Emergency First Responder Training, again, funded by the Department of Energy, and this will start in 2026. And this will allow us to provide first responder training to firefighters, first responders, nurses, anyone dealing with that may be involved in putting out like fires related to electric vehicles or any of the hazards that could be associated with that. And so here you'll notice that we are working with Clean Cities coalitions throughout the United States to host these trainings. So stay tuned for this as well. And then this here is just talking about our coalition strategic planning. So we, over the last year, have really been doing a lot of planning and really looking into our coalition's plan and making sure that we are meeting the needs of the residents in North Dakota. And so we have, made some goals. And so what those goals turned into are, just building stronger partnerships with underserved communities, identifying their transportation priorities and potential projects for us to be able to support them. We're looking to potentially establish a coalition membership. We have done our first advisory board or advisory roundtable meeting, and we had a lot of really great representatives there that were able to provide feedback and expertise and guidance into some of the things that we'll be doing with our coalition and projects that we'll be working on. And then just continue to reduce petroleum within the state. And so we want to grow that total amount of petroleum displacement, and we want to be able to show that in our annual reporting. So that's all I have. So that was a lot less than 30 minutes, but I just wanted to be able to share some of the work that we're doing in North Dakota Clean Cities and make you aware of what we do. And a lot of the work that we do, is grant funded. So we can help out with projects a lot of times at no cost to the fleet or the organization. And so also just want to make you all aware of that. And then if you have any questions, I'd love to try to answer those at this time.
Who has some feedback or questions for Heather? Heather, I'm just curious about the lay of the land
Yeah.
politically with EVs and change in administrations and all of that. How do we see that affecting North Dakota's pathway going forward?
Yeah, I think we try to stay with the Lung Association and North Dakota Clean Cities. We stay very fuel neutral. We say we're fuel agnostic, if you will. That could set certain projects back or mean that we may not have as much access to electric vehicle funding or grants. But I do think that there is a lane for all sorts of different alternative fuels, and we may have that may open up funding for other routes like hydrogen or compressed natural gas or like biodiesel or renewable diesel. And so I don't think that we will see any of that funding going away. I'll also say that a lot of the funding that we already have in place or the funding that we've been awarded, we already have received contracts for, so that money is not going anywhere, and we will still be able to continue the work that we're doing no matter who's our commander-in-chief.
And Julie, I'm curious about biodiesel and renewable diesel. What was our metro area transit's work with? Was that, remind me what they used to do and tried and where we're at with that now.
We did work with biodiesel. This was when it was new to the market, so 12, 13 even years ago. And we did face some challenges with it, but interestingly enough, we were just in a meeting about this a couple weeks ago, and things have improved considerably. So we're revisiting using the biodiesel in our buses. So
I'd love to, touch base with you. I know now that we have some funding to do that, but I'll also say that the city of Grand Forks has implemented biodiesel in their buses and have seen really a big reduction in carbon emissions. And so they have the data on that now collecting. I don't think they're analyzing all the data now, but they do have the data from this main switch in the beginning of, I think that was a couple, like two or 3 years ago. And so I could definitely share some of that data. I'll also say that, biodiesel comes with some challenges, right? You have to change out the engine and parts and things like that. That's above my head. With renewable diesel, that is a drop-in fuel. So your diesel engines are already ready for that. Like it does cost a little bit more, but I mean, if you're thinking about what you're being taxed, on emissions and things like that, there could be, it could be a trade-off. So renewable diesel is really exciting. I'm really, really excited to be working with renewable diesel and kind of try to build out infrastructure in that area as well, because I know that we do produce some here in North Dakota, but we do, and in the region, I just don't know if we have a lot of infrastructure to fill up and things like that. So it'd be something that we'd be looking at with this funding.
Mike Williams and Bruce, you probably were around when that biodiesel project was going on.
I was. Oh man, I'm going to date myself here, but anyway, we did a pilot project. We partnered with the NDSU Mechanical Engineering Department to do a biodiesel pilot project in heavy equipment at the landfill, and that was in the early days, of biodiesel. And of course, we recognized where the challenges were, so I thought it was really useful. The winter time, those types of things that you always hear about. So. And I've not done much with it since then. Maybe Ben knows a little bit about that. But the old biodiesel we used to talk about, which was a soy-based, it smelled like vegetable oil actually, and renewable diesel, how they differ, I'm kind of curious about.
Are there grants and funding sources available, Heather, for cities like Fargo?
Potentially, I'd have to kind of look into that. I mean, Grand Forks got some kind of grant funding for this, but they worked really closely with MegCorp and DSoy. And so I'd be curious to see, what they say about grant funding related to biodiesel. I know there's nothing that I can think of through like the Department of Energy aside from what I've applied for right now, but that could change.
Anybody else? Julie, I might have interrupted you there when you were you still speaking when I took over the mic a while ago?
No.
How about ethanol? Where does ethanol fit in this whole picture?
Yeah, so I know a lot of different, fleets are using ethanol. One of our national partners that have actually just went bankrupt, but it was Schwann's. They were using ethanol for all of their fleets, and I know we have some really great data there. Locally, I don't work with any specific fleets locally that are using ethanol, but I know that the benefits are great, and I would love to be able to work with ethanol. I don't have a whole lot to say about that, honestly.
Okay. Sean and Chad, does this all fit with what you're all doing in your industries?
Yeah, I know we'd be more on the EV side. We've done a number of EV projects in town, from the level 3 fast chargers and electric buses and EVs in our fleet and things like that. I really don't have anything to add on the biodiesel side, but we're definitely supporting that electric transportation initiative.
Question for you, Chad. You also helped with the West Fargo electric school bus. Is that correct?
We did. Yep, we helped them get the basically the first electric bus in North Dakota. Yep.
Yeah. Would I be able to get any of that data from you?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to share all that data with you.
Yeah, just because we have some funding now for electric school buses and to be able to provide some listening sessions and things like that. So love to.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a great relationship with Brad Redmond, the transportation director over there, and a lot of good data. And there are a lot of considerations if you're considering that electric school bus, pros and cons. So.
Yeah, I'd love to follow up with you. Maybe I can snag your email.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Yep.
And Sean, did you have anything you were going to add in there?
No, we're in the similar boat. Well, we cover 8 states, so it could be definitely different states too, so.
So the first EV bus in the state was through West Fargo, and you, Cass County, worked with them?
The first 100% electric school bus. Yep, that's correct. Yep.
And now, Glen Olin and a couple other districts have buses out that way. And so I'd be curious to see the comparison between a more rural district than West Fargo and how, West Fargo handled it compared to how that rural district was handling or is handling theirs with the cold weather and things like that. So yeah, I can talk to you.
Yeah, we even, school district I'm currently in, Mapleton, they also got a school bus, and they got a E-Lion, whereas West Fargo's was a Bluebird. So we've even had the opportunity to compare side by side a brand new E-Lion versus a 2016, or I shouldn't say 2016, I forget the year, but an older Bluebird to kind of see the differences and compare two. So
we might want to follow up on that at some point and just share the data and bring Heather into it, but that's really good insight. I know there's a city, probably several cities, one of the California cities recently converted their entire fleet of everything to EVs. Recently, I'd be curious how that's working.
So they recently did that in Virginia, in DC. There's a district out there that converted their whole fleet to electric school buses, save for like 3 or 4 diesel buses, but it's going well. They love it. They say they love it. So.
Yeah, and I would just reiterate again with the school buses, even for a school district like West Fargo, it's got to be the right tool for the right job. It's a great bus for what it does for the in-town route, but it can't do all the routes. There's just some limitations with range and charging time.
Does West Fargo own their own schools, buses, the district, or do they charge?
No, they do. West Fargo owns their own transportation fleet.
So that might be an issue too, is who provides your bus service or not. Like here it's McLaughlin's for our school.
Yeah.
I think. Good. Anybody else? Heather, thank you really sincerely. That was good stuff.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for allowing me to be here, and I hope to chat with some of you offline.
You will,
Thank you.
okay. Okay, Bruce, let's go to the next topic.
Yes, and thanks, Heather. This is quite similar at a previous SRC meeting, except this was in February of 2023, so preceded Heather's last presentation. But Adam Altenberg with MetroCog gave us a presentation about an RFP that they were working on to select a consultant to help them complete an EV readiness study, not just for Fargo, but for our entire metro area. And At that time, MetroCog had drafted an RFP seeking these professional services, and so in February 23, Adam came and told us about that. Well, the study was recently completed, and Brenda and I were talking about just off the cuff one day, so we've got this in draft form, this study completed, and where do you suppose we could take it from here was kind of our conversation, and that's where we thought, well, the SRC heard about it before it started. Now that it's completed, maybe it'd be a good topic for the SRC, kind of a follow-up. So we're fortunate that Adam agreed to be with us again today and go through that and show us findings and conclusions and all those things that might interest all of us. And so, Adam, if I messed up your introduction, I'm sincerely sorry.
No.
But I do thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you, Bruce. Thank you, committee members. Again, my name is Adam Altenberg. I'm with the Fargo-Moorhead Metropolitan Council of Governments, and we recently approved the electric vehicle readiness study. We actually approved that back in November with our policy board. The overall purpose of this study was to develop an effective EV planning process for our region. So a couple of things that I thought I would touch on here today is just take some time to go over the project overview, talk a little bit about just some basics on EV 101, and then talk about study accomplishments and some strategies and next steps. So project overview, the biggest question that we came in when we started the study is how many EVs do we anticipate in our region here? We know as of this fall, we had roughly about 920 EVs that were registered in Cass and Clay counties. But working with the consultant team from HDR and some of the tools that they had, what we found is by 2035, we can expect between 11,000 and 18,000 electric vehicles in our area. With that jump in the number of EVs, that will require 7,000 to 11,000 charging points. And what we've done is we've looked at different land uses and charging needs. And what we've determined is that that would roughly equate to about 5,000 to 8,000 single-family charging, especially the level 2 chargers, which I'll get into here a little bit later. 900 to 1,300 multifamily. I know this was something that was the topic that was brought to this committee in the past. What do we do to ensure that people that live in apartments or multifamily units have access to charging in our region? So now we do have kind of a ballpark estimate of what those charging needs will be for people that live in multifamily units. And then also additionally 1,600 to 1,900 publicly accessible charging ports. And these are the ports that you see, for example, right outside here at City Hall, the parking garage at Roco, and approximately 30 other destinations here in the Fargo-Moorhead area at this point in time. So another thing that we were thinking about the study, why I think about EV readiness, we do know that most charging will likely occur at home. But publicly accessible chargers are going to be needed to serve not only residents that don't have access to at-home charging, but also people that may be coming and traveling into and out of the region here as well. So when we're talking about different charging types, we're looking at both that residential, including that residential charging. We're also looking at community charging. This is the charging that might happen for off-street parking or parking garages. Commercial destinations. This is where we for example, for shopping, grocery stores, we're seeing a lot of that commercial destination here charging right now in our area. Workplace charging, this would be at commercial offices, those sorts of land uses. Distance charging, these are the types of charges that would likely occur off our interstate system. This ties into the NEVI program, which is looking to develop some of these fast charging sites off of I-29, I-94. And then depot charging, which would include if cities were looking to electrify their fleets or potentially transit as well. So a couple of project goals that we had as part of the study was, the first was to align regional goals with growing shift to EVs. So the biggest part of that was aligning some of our transportation planning projects, other plans that MetroCog does and other jurisdictions do to make sure that we're thinking about incorporating EV charging needs with other transportation improvement needs in our area. We also have the goal of engaging city and regional leaders, utilities, business partners, and the public. One of the good things that we had with this project is we had not only a study review committee, but we also had a working group, which include partners from the DOTs, utilities. We had some higher education learning institutes that were involved in that, as well as people that had an interest in EV charging in our area. And then lastly, just providing some actionable recommendations, which I'll touch on here at the end here. But a couple of the high priority strategies, which I'll note here right now, these are divided between cities, between MetroCog, DOTs, utilities. So we all kind of have a stake in some of these strategies. The ones that are outlined, these are the ones that we've identified for different jurisdictions in their area. And I'll talk about these a little bit later. But I'll note that the ones for the cities specifically, updating zoning codes, permitted use tables to include electric vehicle service needs, developing building code requirements to update parking minimums, develop charging site standards and sharing them with charging providers, and then potentially creating density bonuses for multifamily developers to add charging stations to parking. So I'll step back here and just kind of talk a little bit about the basics of electric vehicles. So there's three types. There's the battery electric, plug-in hybrid electric, and hybrid electric. When we talk about EVs, we're usually talking mostly about those battery electric vehicles. These are the types of vehicles that are charged 100% by electricity, compared to plug-in hybrids, which are mostly combustion engine, but also use electricity to get some extended range, usually in the ballpark between 20 to 50 miles of an extended range. And then also you have hybrid electrics, which really only use electricity just for braking or some other smaller needs here. So when we're talking about electric vehicle needs, it's really geared towards those battery electric vehicles, especially when it comes to the fast charging. For plug-in hybrid electric and hybrid electrics, these cannot use those fast charging sites. They can only use these level 1 or level 2 type charging. But for battery electrics, those are the ones that can use the DC fast charging sites. So charging connectors, again, you have AC level 1, AC level 2. AC level 1, that's basically your 120 volt outlet. With that, you can expect to get about 1 to 2 miles range per hour charging by that. So if you have a vehicle and if all you use it for is for short trips to and from work or to and from the grocery store, you can usually get by just with that level 1. Level 2, that's at 240 volts. It's the same as what you would expect with your dryer outlet. With that, you can expect to get charge a vehicle between 4 and 10 hours. And it's about 19.2 kilowatts, I believe, is the average charging per hour with those. And then the last is the DC fast charging. And with those, you bypass what's called an onboard charger so that you can charge your vehicle directly. You can, in some instances, you can fully charge a vehicle just in 10 to 20 minutes. But the kilowatt load with that is between 500 and 350 kilowatts versus 1.9 kilowatts for just that level 1 120 volt outlet. So there's a big difference there. And then these are just a couple of examples of level 2 charging, some images there. The ones in the top, these are charge points. So these are more used for fleet vehicles. They have payment systems that are connected to them. one of the members from the consultant team said that you can almost think of these as glorified extension cords running off dryer outlets. 7 kilowatts is the typical charging per hour. And you can have both a single and dual ports. So you can sometimes have some of these chargers that have more than one extension cord. I'll note one of the things too that our consultant team noted that is that there's sometimes not economies of scale. So if you're just going to incorporate a couple of chargers, it's sometimes much cheaper than if you're looking to expand and have, say, 10 to 20 chargers at a location. So the more charges does not equate to an economies of scale. The next here, these are just a couple of examples of those level 3 of those DCFC fast chargers. And what you can see is that you have those charging units in the back, and then where you see bollards in some of those pictures, those are the dispensers themselves. They're expensive. Typically, they're between $1,200 to $2,000 per kilowatt hour. So this is where a lot of the federal funding comes in to help to fund some of these larger chargers here. The latest example is actually the Holiday Station in Moorhead off of 34th Avenue. That's our newest DCFC fast charging site in our area. So some of the study accomplishments here, this is kind of a list that we've put together here. So one of the things I did want to highlight is we did try to concentrate on public engagement as part of this planning process, not only just to get the word out about the study, but also to help educate people and maybe some of the misconceptions that they had, not only with electric vehicles, but the charging needs themselves. So with that, we did have a couple of different rounds of public engagement as part of this plan. We had an open house just right over at the Skyway Commons here back in April. We also participated in the EV car show. It's an event I didn't even know that we had in our community, but it was the 4th annual EV car show back this summer, which had a really good turnout. And we kind of crashed that event. Had a pop-up tent at that as well. But we also had online surveys, and then we also had some interactive maps where people could pick out locations where they thought it might be good for us to think about putting chargers here in our community as well. I talked about the working group that we had that had approximately 20 different people from different areas, expertise. Again, provided invaluable insight, more than I think we would have had just working with our study review committee alone and the members from our area jurisdictions. And that's something that we do hope to continue here beyond the study to maybe meet annually or biannually as we transition more and more to electric vehicles and we learn more about what the needs may be here in our community. But again, I think the major accomplishment is just kind of that forecast and kind of what our needs are going to be, and looking at a couple of different growth scenarios from kind of a slower growth, which would equate to approximately 11,000 new electric vehicles here by 2035, to a faster growth, which is about roughly 18,000 electric vehicles. And then those percentages with the slower growth would be approximately 4% of all the vehicles that would be on the road at that time versus 7% of all vehicles on the road. And then again, kind of looking at what those different types of ports that would be needed, whether they're going to be single family, multifamily, or public or DC types of charging. We also worked with several utilities on this study, including XL, Cass County Electric, Otter Tail, and then Moorhead Public Service. And knowing some of those charging needs and what to expect, it kind of helped us to do some load growth planning. and then put together some weekday electric load scenarios showing different charging types here. So that's what those two graphs indicate. Again, looking at charging needs for single family versus multifamily versus public or DC charging. And again, looking at some of the charging types based on land use, kind of touched on this on one of the previous slides, but looking not only at residential charging, but also community charging, commercial, workplace, distance destinations, and then depot type charging. And then one of the activities that we had in one of our workshops is we kind of looked at different maps of the community and thinking about both current land use and future land use, where different types of charging may be good for us to think about. And this was a good activity for not only jurisdictions, but the working group to help us get a better sense of where it would be good for us to think about future charging in our region. And these maps are all included in the study itself. So strategies and next steps. Again, we identified 8 high priority strategies here. For MetroCog, one of the strategies that was identified was to develop EV educational materials for the community. So continuing with the webpage that we have and then adding additional materials to that as we kind of move towards that transition here in the future. For DOTs, one of the asks is to track EV registrations and installations. On the Minnesota side, at least, the Minnesota Pollution Control Board actually does a good job of tracking these EV registrations themselves. So that's another good source of information, both for us and for some of our project partners. One of the high priority strategies for utilities was to coordinate on charging site locations. And then the rest are some of the strategies that we've identified for our area local jurisdictions. And they kind of go into 4 categories: removing barriers to zoning codes, developing charging station design standards, making building codes EV ready, and then looking at potential density bonuses here. And I'll go through each of these here in the next couple of slides. So removing barriers to zoning codes. This is really a good time, especially for the city of Fargo, as you're doing a rewrite to your code diagnostic. If I'm not mistaken, you've already had some meetings with your consultant with that project, or so this is kind of good timing here to think about some of these items here. But right now, language in most zoning codes, it does not classify EV charging stations separately from gas stations. And then charging stations would then fall under the same restrictions as gas stations in a lot of current zoning codes. So what you can do and what the consultant team has put together as some of those strategies is defining EV charging stations separately from gasoline fueling stations, and then allowing charging station as a permitted use in appropriate zoning districts, and then also allowing EV parking spaces to count towards the minimum parking requirements. So just a couple of ideas there for updates to zoning code needs here. For charging station design standards, these fall into two different categories. One's station accessibility, and the second is safety. So one of the thoughts about this is that at least one EV charging space per every 25 should be accessible. And if you only have one, that EV charging station should be handicapped accessible. And then just some accessibility features here, as you can see in this image here. Space should be 11 feet wide by 20 feet long. Side aisle, at least 5 feet wide. Clear floor or ground space at the same levels as the vehicle's charging for unobstructed side reach, and then accessible operable parts, including the charger and connector, so a person that may be in a wheelchair can easily access the charger and hook that up to their vehicle. And then the next is just safety, and then just some thoughts about what stations to provide. That includes dedicated lighting, contact information if a station is inoperable, details such as amperage and the voltage of the station, and then bollards or other protective means here so that you actually can protect the chargers from vehicles themselves. And then also an emergency stop button or call buttons. Making building codes EV ready. So there's kind of three different categories of making your codes ready. It's either the capable, ready, or installed. EV capable codes, basically it's when you have panel capacity installed and available to support future charging, and also dedicated circuit and raceway from panel to parking stalls. EV ready, that's when you're, it's kind of the capable plus, you can call it, but you also have the wiring installed from the panel to the parking stall, and then terminating at a 240 volt outlet or junction box. And then EV installed is when you have that level 2 charger actually installed at a location. So, and with that, it's recommended to prioritize a higher percent of EV capable spaces rather than a lower percent of EV ready or EV installed. And then building EV capable parking spaces during new construction is much cheaper than redoing work at a later stage. And you can kind of see some of those cost estimates here in the graph to the right there. And then lastly, just some examples of density bonuses for new development. Offering a density bonus could help with encourage additional investment in charging. And then for existing developments, some cities have started to offer financial incentives or rebates to help offset the cost of adding charging stations. And then a couple of examples here in Norcross, Georgia. They were, for one of their developments, was given an additional 10% density bonus that could be applied, providing EV charging stations for 5% of parking spaces with a minimum of 5 charging stations. And then next is Quincy, Washington, which provided a maximum bonus of 10% if EV charging is incorporated into proposed developments. So just a couple of examples there. And there is some more information about this online too on our project website if you want further information on those.
Adam, what do you mean by a bonus? Is it an incentive? But that's
yes, yes.
Because I've been kind of wondering what kind of incentives people should be offering for this future technology or not. And I don't know if we're doing anything, Bruce. Are we now or?
At this time, we are not.
Okay. So a bonus is just another word for incentives?
It's for density.
Yeah. So Megan, I might ask Megan to jump in. I think what they're saying is, so like if you're MR zoning, you get so many units. But maybe if you can add more density, then you can add more people to the site, and that helps your return on investment. And so it might be, if you add EV, then we'll even allow you to add more units above and beyond what it's zoned at. Would that be a correct statement?
Yep, I don't have anything else to add, but that's what I would assume that's going on here. Yeah, thanks, Brenda.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
No. I'm almost finished here. So, so we had some of those short-term strategies. These are some of the longer-term priorities, strategies to think about here. So a couple of those here: developing demand response for bi-directional charging deployments, developing net metering programs, sharing EV information with customers. Those are strategies that were identified for utility providers. A couple additional ones for cities requiring EV battery training, fire training for emergency responders. I think that's already being being done in our area, if I'm not mistaken. Potentially looking at developing fleet transition strategies, and then enforcement mechanisms for electric vehicle or combustion engine vehicles that are parked in EV spaces. With that, there is language in both the North Dakota Century Code and the Minnesota State statutes that do prohibit if you're driving a combustion engine to park in an EV space. But if there's additional mechanisms that cities could use to enforce that's kind of what that's getting at. A couple others here. Defining required uptime reliability standards for charging stations. Basically, that's making sure that stations are operable and that there's not extended periods of downtime. And that's one of the issues that we find here now is that sometimes some of the publicly available information about where chargers are at, people will get to that destination and then they'll find that that charger's not working at that point in time. So just looking at some of those reliability standards to make sure that stations are operating more frequently. And then the last couple there, developing charging policy for ownership, cost structure, opportunities to employees, employers, and then the last one is just kind of a general converting streetlights to LEDs for electrical capacity. We don't get heavy into some of the funding sources, but we did touch on two federal funding opportunities in the plan. The first is the DOT charging and fueling infrastructure, the CFI grant program. For my information, there's 3 rounds left in that. I don't have the numbers in front of me of what those available grant monies would look like. But the other program we do look at is the carbon reduction program. This is actually how this study was funded, was through that program. And what it has allocated for North Dakota and Minnesota is $41 million for North Dakota. And then on the Minnesota side, there's $107 million over 5 years. And then what Minnesota has done is we do have targets for some of that monies, at least for the Minnesota portion of our metro area. So you can kind of see what we are looking at for targets for CRP programs here for not only electric vehicle charging, but other programs as well. So lastly, here's some of the next steps here. So a couple of thoughts was with recommended studies is that we'd come back in maybe 3 to 5 years to conduct a phase 2 readiness study that would focus more on some of those optimal locations that we've identified in the workshop and through public engagement. Another idea is develop an approach to integrating EV infrastructure into utility master planning for large site redevelopments here in our area. And then also facilitating studies at our jurisdictions and other partners to address localized needs here. Again, as this matures here and we learn more here in the coming months and years. As for agency next steps, again, it's kind of the update to the study in 3 to 5 years. We do hope to continue working with this working group. And one of the thoughts is that MetroCog does have a number of different committees, potentially creating a new committee specifically for EV, electric vehicle needs. And then holding workshop meetings focused on EV infrastructure development kind of ties into that. The last couple of bullet points there, just incorporating discussions on EV readiness into existing MetroCog Transportation Technical Committee meetings, and just continuing that kind of that planning collaboration, and then incorporating EV charging needs into additional planning projects that we do here for the area. The last two, just prioritizing those high priority strategies over the short term, and then exploring additional options for enhanced EV readiness here. So that is a lot of information in a short amount of time. Again, a lot of this there's an executive summary, the report, and additional information is available online, fmmetrocog.org. You can find the project page going to that URL. But with that, be happy to take any questions at this time.
Anybody at all? I'm curious, Adam, about the political future again with administrative changes and even with our new governor in North Dakota who's from an oil background. Is that something we even worry about or think about, or is it gonna, I'm just trying to get a sense of that for North Dakota.
I don't know if I have a good answer for you. I think it remains to be seen here. What if there's going to be any changes here over the next couple of years? We do know that some of these programs, they're in the current transportation bill, and that doesn't expire for a couple of years yet. So again, like that CRP, the NEVI program, a lot of that there's funding that's been allocated now beyond 2024. So I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon.
Are the credits maybe going to disappear, perhaps?
Sorry?
The tax credits maybe who knows, yeah.
I don't have a good answer.
No.
Yeah.
Who else? It's really hard to fathom what the future will look like. And you alluded to it, but maybe with Chad and Sean, the electric grid's going to be really stressed if we get to that 18,000 cars and that's only 4% or so. But
it'd be up to 7%.
What will that do to the electric grid?
Yeah, potentially. You know what, if we do a slow, steady growth, we can manage it. We're doing engineering studies now to determine what that impact will be. And the presentation kind of alluded to it too. It's how fast or how much capacity do you need to charge that car? What are your driving habits? If you are somebody that only drives 5 miles round trip to work every day, the 120 outlet in your garage is more than sufficient. Really, the high capacity DC fast charger should really be just interstate travel. So kind of right sizing some of these things too when you are evaluating EVs. But it's really those high capacity, high demand DC fast chargers that we would be concerned about and have to plan for.
And Adam, are we on path to have every 50 miles or so on interstate to have a charging station within a mile of interstate? Is that kind of how it looks or goes, or?
That's the goal, yes. Yeah.
And where are we at now? Any idea?
I don't. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the first round of NEVI funding just closed. It was for the rural areas, the rural exits. I would expect the awardees would be named any day now, but I have not heard. And then round 2 is supposed to open later this year, early next year for the urban city centers, so like the Bismarck, Fargo areas.
Yeah, the Minnesota awardees, yeah, we found information about that about a month and a half ago. So.
Anybody in here have an EV? Do you, Heather? I do. We found one.
I also have a combustion engine as a vehicle as well. I have all of it, so. But yeah, my EV's great. I love it.
All right. Who else has any feedback or questions for Adam? Really, Bruce.
Just a quick comment. I appreciate the report and the work done, and Brenda, I'm not going to throw you under the bus here, but we were chatting about that, and where do you go next? Especially where do you go without any money? Because, you just went through a difficult budget, Commissioner, and that's that age-old question. How do you pay for it, and how do you prioritize things? And, we can overcome just about anything. Mike Redlinger once told me, an old boss of his says, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. I thought that was really interesting.
And I suppose there's levels. There's institutional levels, and then there's the individual. And wherever we're at, those individuals are still going along at their own pace and doing their own things and setting their own, getting their own charging system. So we'll probably have that movement carry us along.
Maybe just to add to Bruce's comments too, some of these incentives and some of these programs and rebates, I think they're good to get a new technology going, get it going off its feet. But long-term sustainably, the technology and the savings are gonna have to stand on its own two legs and make long-term financial sense on its own without some of those tax incentives and rebates.
Lots to think about. Anybody else? At all? Adam, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For presenting. All right. I'm not sure if we have anybody in the audience for public comment. Is there anybody? Okay. Our next meeting tentatively, one more mention, Bruce, we'll follow up on as we will visit with Denise, Commissioner Kolpak, and revisit the youth appointee to the SRC. I'll be really honest. Lately, my fire was kind of squelched for a while. It took the wind out of my sails when we didn't get that LED grant that I just thought we had it. And that was such a big coup to have those that come our way to do all of our conversions across the city expeditiously. But we keep going. And we don't have to turn the world on, do it all at once, like you say. But so bear with me as I reinvigorate my own passion about these topics. And I invite all of you to look for moments. If any of you have something percolating in your brain about this is something to explore, to do, or initiatives, we have a lot of department heads, we have industry people, we have school districts, we have look and be willing to share ideas you have or topics that can contribute to this effort going forward, because I think that's going to be important to just keep our eye on the daily things. Greta, anything else? You are our citizen scientist.
Very different field of science than this stuff.
Zoe? And you also wear the hat as park board. She's also on the park board now, so we've got another connection there. All right, and last call for, we will adjourn and reconvene again. It looks like in February. We'll notify you on those meetings, and sincerely appreciate everybody's attendance today.